It's Thursday afternoon, and that means it is time to record the Beyond MMA podcast. Are we on episode 81 or 82? It's one or the other. Pull up my episode list here real quick. This is a little embarrassing, but we're covering the upcoming UFC Fight Night card, which is better than what we've had last week. I was having a conversation with somebody in regards to this, actually. Oh, God. All my logins have been deleted. Lovely. Anyways, I'm not going to bother with the episode number then. It's in the title. There you go, unless you're listening on YouTube. It's a better fight card than what we had last week. And the reason I would say that is that there are at least, fun fights. Last week's card was, compiled with, meaningless, but also fights that had relatively low entertainment upside, relatively high downside for boredom. And this week's card doesn't really have that, even if there's not a lot of fights that I would say are can't miss. In terms of good fights, the main event is perfectly fine. It's weak for a main event, but it's an okay fight. Muniz versus Aillin. Looking forward to that. Those are two very good fighters. The return of Tatiana Suarez. That's a big deal. Malott versus Lannis might... that one has some upsides and some downsides. We'll put it that way. Kind of excited for Gabriella Fernandes' debut against Jasmine Jasudavicius. That's a good fight. Ode Osborne and Charles Johnson, I think, is a good fight. I think Nurullo Aliev versus Rafael Alves. Good fight. And Jose Johnson, Garrett Armfield could be good. So, that's infinitely more. And then, there are just some fighters I do relatively enjoy, even if their fights on this card are of the showcase variety. Looking at you, Joe Selecki. And, I guess you could also say that about the Suarez fight. I'm not necessarily expecting Suarez versus Montana De La Rosa to be a classic, but, it's a big deal. We also have Bellator 291 coming up. That is the Amosov versus Logan Storley card. I don't have a lot of fights to really get into there. Bellator has the tendency to... I don't know what it is. Bellator has an opportunity here to do something good and bring it. And I get that it's in Dublin. I get the Dublin cards are always pretty lackluster. But this one seems particularly weak. The co-main event of Pedro Carvalho versus Jeremy Kennedy is two guys that I just don't buy as top of the food chain. Peter Queally versus Bryce Logan. I don't buy as top of the food chain. Sinead Kavanaugh versus Janae Harding. I don't buy. Harding's got a lot of potential, but 6 fights into a pro MMA career, she's 6-6. So it's never really come across. And then you're down to Karen Clark versus Leonardo Cenas. Carl Moore versus Rosansky. I do actually think Carl Moore is pretty good, and then it's a fun banger, but Charlie Ward, Mike Shipman is the definition of regional MMA right there. Two guys who are good at realistically one thing. They're good at brawling. That's about it. And they're going to put on a good show. They're going to fight well. Richie Small is on the card. There was a time when people were crazy on him. I never really believed in it. I kind of honestly had him in the same spot as Paddy Pimblett, where yes, gift of gab. Yes, gets the crowd invested in him. But no, isn't that good. And actually, the low down fight that I'm actually really interested in is Jenna Bishop versus Alina Kalidou. Because Kalidou has seemingly been putting some things together. And I think really actually does have the physical upside to be a very, very good flyweight. And Jenna Bishop has a pretty decorated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background. So that fight is fun. I would recommend watching the card for that fight and the main event. I am taking Amosov to beat Storley. He beat him before, and I can't bring myself to pick Logan Storley just in general. Because I feel like Logan Storley is what everyone thought John Fitch was back in the day. I was one of those weird people that, like, I'm not going to tell you I was looking forward to John Fitch fights. I was not. At no point was I looking forward to John Fitch fights. But I didn't dread them with the same general fierceness that everyone else did because I found what he was doing to be interesting. I thought he was a guy with limited athletic upside, doing his thing, going out there and being tough as nails to get the job done. And Logan Storley is the guy who goes out there and wrestles people despite having all the athletic ability to probably do better and just failing to deliver an exciting fight. That fight between him and MVP, oh my God, that was so bad. So I'm really hoping Amosov wins. I mean, again, the story is great. He's a guy who actually went back to the Ukraine, served in the defense forces. There is some debate about the level of that actual serving and what that entailed exactly. And I don't know. But he went back there and he gave up part of his career to, if nothing else, serve as a rallying cry for his people. And I really hope that he comes back and he picks up the win here. And he goes 27-0. Because I don't enjoy Logan Storley. It's nothing against him as a person. It's just purely I don't find his fighting entertaining. If he gets back the belt, I'm going to be very disappointed. Or not back the belt. I think he's just been an interim champion. But, you know, if he gets the belt as Bellator's top welterweight, my God, does that put a damper on that division. Carvalho and Kennedy. I'm picking Kennedy. I'm picking Peter Queally to beat Bryce Logan. I'm picking Sinead Kavanaugh to win. Picking Carl Moore to win. Picking Clear Clark to win. I actually don't really know in the Shipman versus Ward fight. That could go either way. You could flip a coin there. Gokim Sarakam probably will win his heavyweight tilt with Oleg Popov. I like Popov's 15-1, but I don't really buy into him. And further on down, I'm going with Bishop to beat Kalidou because wait, where is Bishop actually trading out of? It's Alliance, right? Yeah, it's Alliance. Yeah. I remember Kalidou's fight against Kate Jackson. And she got the win there, and she showed, like, she really got my attention with some of the physical stuff she pulled off. But, like, by the same token, she has been manhandled by, like, Kate Jackson and Beck Rollins and Bruna Ella. And Bishop, while a much less well-rounded fighter than all of those, I feel like actually is just more of a physical presence and grappling force. So there you go. And we also got KSW, DeFries versus Duffy. Man. Talk about two guys whose UFC runs went from just did not go well. Phil DeFries and Todd Duffy. Yeah. That's a fun fight, but the undercard doesn't really feature a lot of particularly impressive stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm here for Michael Kita versus Daniel Olmilanchuk. Two absolute pioneers, veterans of the Polish MMA scene in heavyweight bout. I'm down for that. That's fun. PFL's got its contenders or its challengers series, which is basically their version of Dana White Contender Series to a certain degree. I will say this though, Helen Peralta's on the card and so is Shanna Young. And those are two people that will, I think, be a big part of the promotion of the PFL flyweight tournament. So I'm looking forward to seeing them. That's about it, really, for those cards. And then one Fight Night 7 is coming up. This one, I believe, is another one of the Amazon cards. Bangkok, Thailand. MMA-wise, not all that interesting. John Lineker versus Fabricio de Andrade is your main event. Martin Wynn versus Ranzabali Sheliev. That's what I'm going with. You can tell I'm not very familiar with him. And Iko Sapatra versus Danny Kingad. Not super interesting, but hey, there's a grappling bout with Danielle Kelly in it. I'm always there for that. There's a heavyweight kickboxing fight. That's kind of fun. And yeah. Oh, Tommy Langmaker's on the card. There you go. Langmaker, pardon me. I always mess up his name. I always want to add an M there that is Langmaker because I went to school with someone with that last name. Anyways, no real picks on that card, or at least nothing deep. And I don't really get the value of having picks without analysis, in my opinion. So let's get on to the UFC card. UFC Fight Night 220, UFC on ESPN 78, UFC Vegas 70, UFC Krylov versus Spann. Let's start off with the fight with us. We were supposed to get Andrade Feely versus Lucas Almeida on this card, and that would have been dope. That would have been a good fight. Good action fight. Yeah, sure. Feely is not going to be anything more than a high-level action fighter. Almeida, I guess we haven't found the ceiling of, but probably the same. But that's a super fun fight that I would have loved to see. Similar to Almeida's or Feely's fight with was it Bill Algeo? I think it was Bill Algeo is the one I'm thinking of. But it was a phenomenal fight. Pulling it up real quick here. Yeah, it was his last fight against Bill Algeo. That's the sort of ridiculously fun stuff you can do with Andrade Feely. So why not do it? Let's talk about the card. So at the top we have Ryan Spann versus Nikita Krylov. Spann 2 inches taller, 4 inches of length in terms of reach. This is a battle of guys I cannot trust to borrow from the great Eugene S. Robinson. For different reasons. Krylov is a guy who made his bones as this super exciting, chaotic, I guess nominally speaking, kickboxer who got out-wrestled a bunch of times and kind of decided that wrestling was kind of key to victory. And he's not wrong, to be clear. This is not a wrong lesson to take it. But the lesson he took was that I have to wrestle I just have to wrestle, even when it doesn't make any sense. The Paul Craig fight is the perfect encapsulation of what I'm talking about, where it's he hurts Paul Craig and is all right, this is my opportunity to wrestle, and gets tapped. There's his fighting style doesn't seem to be related to the opponent in any way. It's I'm going to fight this way because this is how you win fights. And that's kind of about it. And the problem there is it's going to lead to him going for takedowns. And as much as Ryan Spann's a bad wrestler, and Ryan Spann is a bad fighter. You're going to find this out. Ryan Spann is my pet peeve. A dude who, tons of physical ability, tons of athleticism. No reason he should not succeed at a very high level in MMA. And there's a reason he has succeeded at a high level of MMA, but it's all physical. There is no structure, no nuance, no fight IQ, honestly, to his game. If you listen to him after he knocked out Dominic Reyes, apparently wasn't even really training before then. I don't really believe that. I don't believe that the Reyes knockout, sort of announcing himself there, had anything to do with what he was doing differently, and was just Dom Reyes is in a dark, dark place right now, and I'm not really sure where he goes. I'm not really sure how he gets out of it. But one thing he is actually very good at, he has 9 wins by front headlock submission. Basically what I mean by that is guillotine chokes, but Darce chokes, anaconda chokes. They all kind of fit in there. He's got long limbs. He's got a very opportunistic submission game. That is the type of thing that I could totally see Nikita Krylov falling into in a grappling transition and getting tapped out. But that's kind of the only way I see Spann winning this fight, because Krylov is incredibly tough. Yes, Spann hits hard. He's a good finisher. He's long. He's athletic. He's fast. The chaos of his Johnny Walker fight was a great example of this. Krylov is a bad defensive striker. So is Spann. In fact, honestly, on a defensive level, these guys are bad at just about everything, but offensively potent. I'm just assuming Krylov won't get knocked out, won't get caught in a guillotine, and will be able to, bring his brand of chaos to Ryan Spann, who is not comfortable. Like that I think is basically the big difference between these two fighters is Ryan Spann never seems comfortable. If you were to hypnotize him into a truth trance or whatever, and you were like, Ryan, I want you to describe to me your ideal fight, it would probably be this slow-paced, controlled, structured fight that he has no skills to actually make happen. That's honestly what it feels like. Krylov is comfortable in a mess. This is going to be a mess. Krylov is incredibly hard to stop. Super hard head. Look for him to get enough done as a striker. Mitigate the range because, again, Spann is not very good at maintaining range. Work in takedowns where possible and where needed. Probably just where he feels like it. I maybe scratch the needed. It's just where he feels like it. He'll go for a takedown. And, as dangerous as Spann is in transitional moments, dynamic opportunities, I just see Krylov surviving it. But like, if he gets knocked out or submitted, I'm not shocked. Krylov, I have written here minus 1,170 favorite. There's one too many ones there, I think, is the answer. I believe it's minus 170 to minus 186. And Spann is the underdog at plus 138 to plus 150. That seems about right. Andre Muniz versus Brendan Allen. Interesting phenomenon here because Brendan Allen is like, I always think of him as a tall, rangy dude. He's an inch taller than Muniz, but somehow has 3 inches less in reach. I do actually believe that Brendan Allen is the better fighter of these two. I believe he has the more functional striking game. I believe he is a good scrambler. He is a good finisher on the ground. He's a little bit more powerful. I think he does actually. I think the Krzysztof Jotko fight actually left me very certain that all this time I've been thinking Brendan Allen doesn't really have a lot of lethality as a striker or a lot of potency. I was wrong. I think it's there. But Muniz is a stylistic matchup that I just do not think he's equipped to deal with. Because if you watch the Jacob Malkoun fight, he was taken down off the same single leg repetitively. Muniz has a good single leg. Muniz is an excellent grappler. Like he is a one-trick pony in the sense that there is one phase of the MMA game, the MMA meta game, that he is comfortable with. And that's the on the mat part. That's the grappling portion of this game that we call MMA. But he is an amazing back take artist. He is, for all the guys who have been claiming I'm the best grappler at middleweight, from Joseph Holmes to Andre Petrosky to Gerald Mershart, which is the only one I don't laugh at. Muniz is the actual answer. A guy who, yes, it was an old Jacare, but he sunned Jacare on the ground. It doesn't matter how old Jacare is. That's damn impressive. I do see this one going the distance. I see him being able to get takedowns. I see him being able to out-grapple Allen. I just don't see a Allen victory, to be honest, against anybody that doesn't involve grappling. Because while I'm starting to have faith in him as a striker, that was not there before, it still is not a realm that he has the ability to find a fight in. Like he doesn't have the ability to stop takedowns. Realistically, I think, this will hit the ground. This will be a Muniz style fight. And the only reason I'm not picking a finish is because Muniz is a little bit too flashy for his own good. He's the type of guy who's going to sit on a guy's back looking for an armbar as opposed to just taking a rear naked choke. That was basically how Uriah Hall made it to the end with him. He does have some cardio issues, so I could see Allen having some moments later on. But I don't see him finishing him. And it's one of those ones where, like, I think Muniz banks rounds 1 and 2, and then maybe runs into some problems in the third, and Aillin takes that round. But Muniz wins the decision. So Andre Muniz, he is a minus 205 to minus 250 favorite. Aillin plus 175 to plus 200. Makes sense. Can't really disagree with that. It's a good fight. Augusto Sakai versus Dontel Mays. I was talking to a guy on Discord about this fight. Mostly because he was not looking forward to it. And I'm not going to try and sell you heavily on looking forward to it. I think it'll be a little bit messy. It'll be a little bit fun. Dontel Mays always does like some weird stuff. But here's the thing. I don't think I can pick Augusto Sakai to win fights anymore. To be honest, when he was winning fights, I had a hard time picking Augusto Sakai to win fights. So I guess that's not necessarily a tremendously surprising revelation, I suppose. But after him getting knocked out, I see this going the way of like Adam Reyes or, to be more appropriate, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, where she went on a losing streak for a long time, and it took a long time for her to find herself. Kind of the same deal here, in my opinion. Sakai's game was built on a feeling of invulnerability, indestructibility, that allowed him to walk into the fire kind of repetitively and function as a guy who was not particularly athletic, nor particularly technical at heavyweight, nor particularly big at heavyweight, and get the job done. And it's just like, against anyone UFC caliber, I'm probably not going to pick him now that chin is not holding up. Now that when he takes punches, he goes down, he gets hurt, he gets finished. And as much as Dontel Mays is a way worse fighter than Alistair Overeem or Jairzinho Rosenstruck or Sergey Spivak or who's the other guy that beat Sakai? I gotta pull this up here real quick. I know it's 4 in a row, and I'm forgetting who the fourth person is. Tai Tuivasa, right? Tai Tuivasa. Like, Mays is not those guys. He's not as potent as those guys. He's not as talented as those guys in their A game. He's maybe a little bit more well-rounded than those guys outside of Overeem, because he does kind of do a little bit of everything. He does kind of kickbox, kind of wrestle, kind of grapple, kind of box, and has really high physical threshold. He's a guy who I would love to see what an actual decent coach would do with him, because he's at some no-name gym that I've never heard of anyone else from. But yeah, I just see him at some point connecting with Sakai, maybe taking him down, maybe pounding him out. I got Mays by TKO. I'm surprised he's the underdog at plus 102 to plus 115. He shouldn't be a big favorite, to be clear. This would be the biggest feather in his cap, because, I mean, the biggest feather in his cap up until now is Josh Parisian, I guess. Like, his other UFC win is Roque Martinez and losses to Rodrigo Nascimento and Cyril Gahn. And Nascimento, a worse fighter than Prime Sakai. But like I said, Sakai's game probably does not work. Yeah, Dontel Mays is literally the only fighter listed on Tapology at his gym with a winning pro record. And to be clear, the biggest plus minus that anyone has as an amateur is Trey Harbin at 7-4. It's not a great look. It's not a great look. Yeah. So there you go. Man, him at like Killcliff FC, that'd be dope. That'd be dope. Yeah. I don't know. Mays might be worth a bet if you're looking to place a bet. Tatiana Suarez versus Montana De La Rosa. Talk about the betting odds here real quick. Suarez minus 750 to minus 900, plus 500 to plus 600 on Montana De La Rosa. Widest spread on the card, biggest favorite, biggest underdog. On one hand, I very much see it because, spoiler, I'll be picking Suarez here, but I don't know. Like, coming off a 3-year break for injuries, Suarez has not fought since 2019. in the month of June and has been injured pretty much since. Got booked in 2021 against Roxanne Modafferi, had to pull out with a knee injury. She's had, I think, 3 different knee injuries, and she's fighting here. I don't know if I'd be tempted if I was looking to throw a bet down and just win a bunch of money. I would be tempted to put a little bit of money on Montana Del Rosa. This is not a fight I would pick her under any other circumstances. And I'm still not picking her. But that's a long time. It's a long time to be off for me to be thinking minus 700 money. Anyways, let's get into the fight. Suarez is 2 inches shorter and will have 2 inches less of reach on to De La Rosa. Not a surprise. De La Rosa is a pretty rangy flyweight. And of course, Suarez is a 115er. She absolutely has the style that historically has just trucked Montana De La Rosa. She is physically very, very strong, very athletic. She has a good wrestling game, very good wrestling game. Maybe the best wrestling game in women's MMA, at least in the UFC. Phenomenal takedowns, top control, ground and pound, has some nice submissions. Her striking is, well, the weird thing is again, we haven't seen her striking in almost 4 years. What kind of improvements has she made there? Because each fight she had, the striking was looking better and better. I mean, it's a little bit of the Erin Blanchfield effect, where she was a raw fighter who was actually getting better. We see this with a lot of fighters when they're winning. They're not necessarily working as hard as they should on new things, but she was. So we might come out here and see a way, way better striking Tatiana Suarez than we've seen before. And she'll probably TKO Montana Del Rosa, who's super tough, super scrappy, not very athletic, reasonably well-rounded. And the big problem, I think, for Montana is that her boxing and kickboxing are structured around this slick, somewhat athletic style to it that she's just not able to pull off. And she has no hard stop. There's nothing that Tatiana Suarez can't do to her. And that's a problem. So Suarez by TKO, but that line is a little too wide given the circumstances. Mike Malott versus Johan Lenes. Same height. Lenes has an extra 3 inches of reach. Canadian on Canadian. We don't usually see that, so Canada's getting a win. Okay, full disclosure. Mike Malott is someone who is from my hometown. Never met him, don't know him, never trained with him, nothing like that. But, he's from my hometown, and that it tugs at the heartstrings a little bit. A little bit. And that might be causing me to overestimate him a little bit, which, spoiler, I'm picking him here. But he's the betting favorite, so I assume I'm really not that alone. I'm not overly sold on him. He's a awkward striker, I think is the best way of putting it. Very janky. Good grappler. Technically, a Team Alpha Male guy. Has okay wrestling. Is a good scrambler, actually very opportunistic on the ground. But mostly this is just about Leones being not good. He's a hard hitter, a powerful striker who has a decently put together striking game, okay anti-grappling, but has a terrible cardio, terrible gas tank. Very small. His fight with Gabe Green was a great example of that, where it's you look really, really tired and then you get bombed on. And he claimed he wasn't training cardio for that fight. This is kind of a Ryan Spann moment here, where Ryan Spann's I haven't even really been training up at this point. That's not good. That just points to a lack of effort on Leones' part. And then when he did supposedly train for cardio for his next fight, it was just long stretches of him not doing anything. And he also does this. He also has a very, very bouncy footwork to him, which means he's cutting off his power a little bit and probably actually exasperating his cardio issues. So could he just nuke him a lot? Yeah, he hits hard, and I'm not really sold on Malat's defensive striking. But I'm not sold on Landis' ability to fight at a reasonably high pace that you have to at welterweight in the UFC to actually win fights. So I have Malat by submission after he gets tired. Malat, like I said, is a minus 205 to minus 245 favorite. I was a little surprised by that. And Landis plus 170 to plus 186. Eric Gonzalez versus Trevor Peek. Gonzalez 2 inches longer, or 2 inches taller, 5 inches longer. Why is this fight in the UFC? Why is this fight on the main card? I have questions. These two are both bad. Gonzalez gets detonated a lot, honestly. I don't even know what he's particularly good at. Like, I suppose, in a nutshell, the best part of his game is the clinch. He lands some good elbows and some good knees in the clinch. He's aggressive and fairly fearless about getting there. But his striking game means that he eats tons of shit on the way in. All of it. Not a super good grappler. Not a super good wrestler. Not even a good grappler or wrestler, honestly. Not a good athlete. He's just not supposed to be here. And Trevor Peek is the beginning of a lot of lightweights we have on this card who feel like featherweights because he's 5'9", not super thick. And he's a mess. Dude is very aggressive, very comfortable in a brawl. He'll go in there and have an absolute messy fight, which is, you know what? That suits Gonzalez. This actually might be a really fun fight because these two guys are both going to want to fight a highly aggressive brawl, highly messy fight. They'll probably give it to each other. Peek has seemingly more power, and Gonzalez has a weak chin. So Peek by TKO, but like Peek got a UFC contract off Dana White Contender Series by getting his ass kicked, waiting for the other guy to get tired, and then finishing him. It's a weird signing. And it's a weird idea that Gonzalez is still here on his, I believe, third UFC fight. Betting odds, Gonzalez is a plus 160 to plus 185 favorite. Peek is minus 190 to minus 250. That's probably too wide. I don't see either of these guys being in the UFC in a year, but hey, let's roll. Gabriella Fernandes versus Jasmine Jasudavicius, your featured prelim. Jasmine is an inch taller and a half inch longer in reach. This was supposed to be the Courtney Casey fight with Jasmine, and I would have picked Jasmine in that fight. Again, we must give the spoiler. Jasudavicius is a Canadian. I've followed her career for a while. We do actually have a common friend in common. A friend in common. There you go. Mutual acquaintance. And this has led to me being a little bit of a fan. So maybe I'm giving her too much credit, but I do think that she'll be a good test for Gabriella Fernandes. I like Fernandez' game. She has smooth footwork. She controls the range really, really well. She has the proper build for doing it. Like, even though Jasudavicius is the taller, longer fighter in this fight, that's not normally going to be the case. She's coordinated. She has the skills to make use of a heavy kicking outside game. When she does get into pocket exchanges and boxing exchanges, she has smooth mechanics, throws in solid combinations. I don't think she has the finishing power that I would like to see for this style, but she seems to be able to fight at a high pace, seems to be a problem solver, seems to have good footwork, smooth in general, hasn't really been tested in the sense that she has not fought a lot of good fighters. And the main concern is the fact that she can't seem to stop a takedown to save her life. She has an aggressive guard when she is down there. So she's not without danger, not without ability to win fights on the ground. But she will end up there. Jasudavicius does have a very good top game. I think it's the best part of her game. The control and the ground and pound are on point. And she'll get opportunities to do it there. But she's also someone who is foot slow and has yet to come to terms with the fact that she kind of has to walk through fire to implement the best parts of her game. And during the times when Kay Hansen was willing to just sit at range, she kind of lit her up. Natalia Silva lit her up at range. Elise Reed, before she got to the UFC, lit her up at range. These are all bad signs, with the exception of Natalia Silva, because the other two fighters that I listed there, beat Hansen, lost to Reed, are not as good. Well, okay. Reed might be as good, technically. Like, Reed is actually a really good technician, but she doesn't have anywhere near the physical ability of Gabriella Fernandes or the size. And Kay Hansen doesn't have anywhere near the technique, the size. Probably has better physicality because Kay Hansen is a little bit of a beast, but has serious issues with weight cutting, getting down to straw weight, which is where she should be. But what I'm getting at is they all beat up Jasudavicius at range, and Fernandes will probably do the same. And unless she's had that come to MMA Jesus moment where it's like, all right, I need to truck damage, get inside, force a clinch, get this fight to the ground, work my top control, work the part of my game that is actually rated very highly and could work against Fernandes, she's probably going to lose. Fernandes by decision. Betting odds, Fernandes is the minus 125 to minus 150 favorite. Jasudavicius plus 105 to plus 112. Not bad on the betting line. Jordan Leavitt versus Victor Martinez. Martinez is another too small for this weight class because he's 5'8". And again, not super thick. He's also not an amazing athlete, but we'll talk about Leavitt first because he's listed first on the Tapology. Leavitt is a one-trick pony, kind of akin to Andre Muniz that we were talking about earlier. He's a good grappler. He has some interesting striking that is sometimes effective, but it is incredibly wooden. He is not a particularly great athlete. He's not super fast or explosive. I did think of him as quite strong. Like, I remembered him slamming Matt Wyman and thinking, oh, this guy's actually pretty, at least kind of beefy. But then Paddy Pimblett kind of manhandled him. And I know Paddy is big for the weight class because of, Paddy's kind of weird because Paddy used to be kind of small, like 145er. Became a 155er and now actually seems big for the weight class. It's a little weird. But, it's still not a great sign when he just kind of Hulk smashes you in the clinch. So lacking physicality, lacking striking, wooden striker. Good grappler. Martinez gets taken down and gives up his back a lot. He's also not designing his game in a way that will actually work for a guy who's not athletic for this weight class. Because if you're not athletic, you need to be kind of chaotic. You need to kind of bring volume, bring messiness, and get things going, like where you can outwork people. And he just kind of has the, all right, I go, you go, striking type of thing. And he's trying to make you miss with this like slickster style that he is not fast enough or reactive enough to actually make work. He's probably the better striker in this fight, but has no way to refuse clinches, has no real way to keep Leavitt off his back. And it's a test that Leavitt is. I get that Leavitt just lost to Paddy Pimblett, and he's kind of coming down now. But this is a level of fight that he's won before. I don't really know why it's happening. Leavitt by submission. Ode Osborne, betting odds. This fight is way too close. Minus 105 to minus 120 on Leave It. I'd bet on that. I'd bet at that. You know what? I'm going to place a bet on that. Victor Martinez minus 102 to minus 115. There are segments of the betting that actually have Martinez as the ever so slightly favorite in this fight, and I have no idea why. Ode Osborne, Charles Johnson. Johnson is 2 inches taller, but ironically has 2 inches less of reach to Ode. These are two fighters that I've done a 180 on. Because when Ode Osborne got signed, I'm like, hey, this exciting, athletic, flashy KO artist with a lot of dynamic promise and finishability and all of these things that I'm kind of hyped for. I did think that there was significant shortcomings in his game from his regional career, but I'm like, this guy's going to be really, really fun. And Charles Johnson was the guy I thought took too long to actually get fights going and was like this, 5-round championship type of fighter on the regional scene who just probably was never going to get going in the UFC's flyweight division. And, I guess I'm kind of still there with Osborne, but at the same time, I'm a lot less excited to see him fight because I think the gaps in his game are larger than I thought they were. And Johnson, I actually look forward to his fights. He's found the aggression, the faster going. He's found more volume. He's found use for some making some wrestling happen as well. I think he's done an amazingly good job. Whereas Ode Osborne just kind of turned into flyweight's Joaquin Buckley, which I think works even worse at flyweight than middleweight. Although he is taller, Buckley's also short, and Osborne's not. But it's about all he's got going for him there. Johnson, super durable, super tough guy. He'll probably get hit with something cool by Osborne, maybe once or twice. Probably will be able to survive it, do his thing. Be the more aggressive guy, be more active, which I didn't think I would say. And he'll probably win. I have no idea why this is not on the main card. This is a better fight than Leave It Martinez. This is a better fight than Fernandez, Jasudavicius, probably because it's a smaller division and they're more established fighters. And it is certainly better than Gonzalez Peak, Balot Linus, and Mays versus Sakai. This is my number 4 fight on the card. I have no idea why it is not the feature prelim or why it is not on the main card. Osborne plus 140 to plus 145. 130 to 145. Pardon. 130 to 145. And Charles Johnson minus 155 to minus 170. I like that he's getting respect put on his name. Joe Selecki versus Carl Deaton III. Say it with me now. Carl Deaton is not actually a lightweight. He is 5'6". He is Volkanovski height and does not have the build of Volkanovski, nor the former fat man, aspect of him. Joe Selecki is a known commodity. He has decent power punching. They go into takedowns pretty easily. He has solid top control grappling. Not the most aggressive finish hunter, but, position over submission, everybody. And he's won at a UFC level. Losing to Jared Gordon and being kind of really underperforming against Alex De Silva and getting a bit of a gift decision is a bit weird. But why is Deaton here? He's not freakishly athletic. Like I said, undersized for the division. Has an okay game. He does a little bit of everything. He throws decent volume. He throws. He can prevent takedowns sometimes. He can grapple a little bit. But I just see Selecki going out there and being here's an overhand right. I'm going to body clinch you. I'm going to take you down. And I'm going to do my thing. And I got Selecki by submission. maybe I'm more anti this fight because I was actually looking forward a little bit to Selecki versus Benoit Saint Denis, which was supposed to happen last week before Saint Denis pulled out, and then we got this fight instead. But I seriously have to ask, why is Carl Deaton III here? Selecki is a minus 520 to minus 620 favorite. Deaton is a plus 400 to plus 425 underdog. And that seems about right. Nurullo Aliev, I'm assuming that's how you say it anyways, versus Rafael Alves. Aliev is 2 inches taller and 4 inches longer in the reach department. So, full disclosure again, the Aliev name has left a searing negative impact in my brain, where everyone with that name is like this super strong positional grappler who ends up just being really dull. And I feel like Nurullo is exactly that. I'll try to avoid assuming that he is absolutely that, but yeah, he had that nice finish on the Dana White Contender Series, but that's against form. That's against the grain. His prior fights are, I'm going to take you down, I'm going to lock you down, and I'm going to win a decision. And it's worked. He's undefeated, but it's been against relatively low-level competition. Alves is a super freakish athlete kind of dude. Nothing is really all that. He has the athlete's game in the sense that, no, I would not recommend that anybody fight the way that Rafael Alves does. No one go and do that. But he can counter wrestle, he can grapple, he can strike, and he is the biggest challenge that Aliev has faced. And if you look at the Damir Ismagulov fight, it's a similar dynamic here. Yes, he lost that fight, but Ismagulov had a hard time imposing his wrestling on him, and it was really his boxing that made it work. And I don't think Aliev has the boxing side of that. I think very few people actually have Ismagulov's boxing. It's phenomenal. His use of the jab is great. I got Alves by TKO. I think he splatters his brains, but hey, we'll see. Aliev is the favorite, minus 177 to minus 196. And Alves is the favorite, the underdog, plus 143 to plus 163. Hailey Cowan versus Aillin Perez. Again, I got to bring out the disclosures here. I really don't like Aillin Perez. It's not a fighter thing. I do dislike her fight style. I think it's reckless and completely unstructured and not good. But whoever is running her social media, if that's her, if that's not her, whatever, it's terrible. It's leading twerk army and whatever. It's the over-sexualization of fighters that, to begin with, I find just kind of distasteful. More power to you for doing it. But there's also just hey guys, who should I, get a title shot against? Didn't you lose to Stephanie Egger? Yes. It's just really annoying. It's you can call it confidence. You can. But it's annoyingly so. And it's kind of like the Khamzat Chimaev confidence, I guess, except that in Chimaev's case, I actually thought that at some point he would back it up. But it's the same kind of thing of Chimaev and his fans screaming at the top of their lungs after he beat Reese McKee. This guy's a future champion. This guy's a top 10 fighter. And it's off of beating John Phillips and Reese McKee. No. And Perez is that exact same kind of annoying cockiness without anything backing it up. Cowan, I believe, comes from a gymnastics background. She is quite athletic, quite physically impressive, in a coordination sense, in a strength sense, in an explosive sense. All the physical attributes are there. I don't think anything resembling a UFC ready technical game is. But I guess she's here now, and it makes more sense than a lot of the other Dana White Contender Series call-ups. Not call-ups, but signings lately. I've got Cowan. It's going to be a messy fight between two girls that are used to being able to bully the other one, may not be able to bully the other one, or bully their opponents, and may not be able to bully each other. And we'll see. But I like Cowan a lot more, I guess. And honestly, as a fighter and as a person. And she also feels like she is getting better, albeit very slowly. She needs another one of those ones like a Dontel Mays where it's what would you look like if you went to a serious gym and got the appropriate level of coaching? Because that would be amazing. And Perez is at MMA Masters, which is a better gym, but has shown really no signs of actual improvement. So, Cowan by decision. Moving on to, betting odds. Cowan is the minus 120 to minus 138 favorite. Perez can be found at minus 103, all the way to the plus odds of 110. Jose Johnson versus Garrett Armfield. Johnson is a 6 foot tall 135er. He is 6 inches taller, 4 inches longer. Here's the thing. Outside of the height, nothing really speaks to him winning this fight, though. Because he won his Contender Series fight because his opponent was just so not UFC physically ready. Not a UFC level athlete in any shape or form. And that's kind of all I really have to say about it. He's been finished a couple of times. Brandon Martinez knocked him out. He was completely handled by Ronnie Lawrence. He's just not UFC material. I'm not entirely sure if Garrett Armfield is either, but he is with Killcliff FC. We see Killcliff, normally seeing a bump in their fighters right about around this time in terms of how long he's been with the camp. He scrambles well. He has some good power striking. He is a reasonably solid looking athlete. And he did have 2 relatively competitive fights with David Onama until being finished in the second one. Granted, Onama is a weird case in the sense that I honestly think that James Krause was betting on his fights and trying to manipulate the result because his corner advice, to me, never made a lot of sense. Armfield may be UFC caliber. Johnson is not UFC caliber. Picking Armfield by TKO, there you go. Armfield the favorite, minus 145 to minus 165. And Johnson a plus 120 to plus 145 underdog. He's a unique challenge because you do not run into a 6 foot bantamweight very often. But I feel like that really is all it is. And Armfield is short. All right, so that's the fight card. I do want to quickly toot my own horn here. I weighed in this morning at 231 pounds and change. It was 231.2 if you must get the decimal place. That is the latest I have been in some time. For those who are unaware, I started a weight loss journey from 340 pounds. So I am down 109 pounds at this point. I'm trying to get down to 220. And then I'm going to go back to I'll go back to, I made up with my nutritionalist periodically to discuss the weight loss. But we're going to do the full battery of tests when I hit 220 again to see how much lower we want to go. It will be lower. I look at myself down. I'm like, what do I look like 11 pounds from now? It's still a little pudgy. And I'd still like to go further. But 220 is the current goal. Check out the fat at that point, the energy levels, etc. How do I feel? And we go from there. Like I said, back when I was in shape, I was about 210 pounds. So I'm hoping to end up back something like that. Probably 210, 200. 190, I guess, would be the really low side. But, if I could be about middleweight sized, I'd be pretty happy. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that. Knocked off another 3/4 of an inch off of my waist recently, in the last 2 months this year. And feeling pretty good. Also, if you look at the left, the right, above, below, wherever the description of this podcast is on your podcatcher, you will find a Discord link that leads to my Discord server, where we have a mixed martial arts simulator, a pro wrestling simulator, and a slam ball simulator. All things that I think, if you enjoy this podcast, you would enjoy. And there's my little community there of MMA crazy people and assorted others, mech warriors and sim racers and whatever. And yeah, it's all fun. And there's also a link tree where you can find other aspects of this or other places to find this podcast other than the one you're listening to right now. And also the Discord is there, as well as my Twitter, my Twitch, and my gaming YouTube channel. So you can check out all of that. I appreciate it, and have a lovely day.